As investigators work to understand how and why this happened, the Santa Clara County Sheriff says the situation could have been much worse.
The deputy sheriffs from the sheriff's office, the officers from San Jose Police Department ran into the building while shots were being fired, and I know that it saved many lives.
Let's bring in Cedric Alexander. He was a member of President Obama's Task Force on 21st Century Policing and the former public safety director of DeKalb County, Georgia, also a former police chief. Cedric, good morning. It's always great to have your expertise. I wish it wasn't under these circumstances. In just a moment, I'll ask you a little bit about that law enforcement response and sort of what that says about where we're at right now. But first, let's start with the suspected gunman. He's dead. So what will investigators focus on moving forward? And is it possible to identify a motive?
Well, it's going to be interesting as they move forward in this investigation, because here you have a deceased subject in this particular case. But certainly they're going to go back. They're going to look at personnel records. They're going to talk to family, friends, those he worked there in that facility with. And I think even your early reporting there with Lindsay, where she even indicated that he had made some threatening remarks on and around the campus there in which they worked. So there's going to be an overall investigation by all local, state, federal agencies supporting each other and providing a variety of different resources to try to make some determination as to what was the reason and the cause of this shooting to take place. Were there early warnings that could have been attended to, or were they ignored? So I think as time goes on, guys, we're going to get maybe a better picture of what occurred here, particularly the fact that he burned down, or someone burned down, his home. What was that an indication of? What were they trying to cover up there, knowing that in this premeditated event, that police certainly were going to go to his residence. And they'll also talk to neighbors in that community as well.
Now, Cedric, you just mentioned some of those comments that were made that Lindsay referenced as far as potentially identifying a motive here. And this is the deadliest workplace shooting in over a year. Comes about a month after 8 people were killed at a FedEx facility in Indianapolis. What can law enforcement officials do to identify and prevent future shootings of this nature?
Well, number one, I think that's putting a lot on local law enforcement, because oftentimes there are not indicators in which police may be in proximity of having an awareness about. The awareness really comes from those in those workplaces, in those communities, those neighborhoods, those churches, and to be able to pay attention to people's behavior, what they're saying. But I think it's a bigger systemic problem than that. We're really going to have to take a real look at gun control in this country, how we're going to engage that issue, which is very sensitive, very complex, very convoluted. But at the same time, when we continue to see these types of events over and over and over again, that is something larger that is going on in our American society, our communities, our American culture, that we need to address. And hopefully we'll get to a point where we can do that.
Yeah. And Cedric, we mentioned before, and we played some sound there about how law enforcement ran in as the shooting was still active. Tell us about how response to active shooter situations has changed over the years.
Well, certainly it has. Anytime police show up to a scene where there's an active shooter, one or more officers, they don't have to wait on everyone to arrive. One or more officers, if shots are being fired, they will enter into a facility and hopefully to distract that shooter towards them, because at least they're able to fight back with the appropriate weaponry, where as opposed to them just continuing to target those that are innocent and those that, of course, have no way of defending themselves. So police are going to respond with a great deal of training, with a great deal of courage and forethought in their training. But here again, unfortunately, we're seeing too many of these incidents too frequently. And someone asked the question on yesterday, well, these events are starting back up now as we come out of COVID. No, this is a continuation of a previous problem.
Cedric Alexander, as always, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.